Hey everyone, it is Kate from Moonflower Moments. I'm joining y'all today to do a video response to Amethyst Ascension's top current 11 favorite decks. And I really am so thankful for her for producing this hashtag with the verbiage that it has, because I have been feeling very non-committal lately, absolutely very non-committal. And so I appreciate the freedom to say, okay guys, these are my current favorites. I'm not excluding Tara, I'm not excluding William Blake, I'm not excluding Wild Radiant. All of that is still so beautiful, but I want to show you what I'm working with right now in my practice. So with that being said, I've grouped these in no particular order other than the fact that I try to identify themes. So that way we can talk about the type of work I've been doing with similar decks and perhaps why a couple different decks of similar themes kind of goes together. But there is no traditional ranking in terms of like, oh, this is my first favorite current deck. I'm just going to show you all of the ones that I have and how I'm currently using them. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started with my current favorite shadow work deck, which is the Nicoletta Ceccoli Tarot. And this is a newer deck to my collection. I bought this actually really recently on a whim. It was very cheap. I was interested in it because it is mini, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I want to go ahead and give it a shot. It's something new, it's something different. I don't have a lot of decks like this in my collection. And I'm really pleased to see that it packs the punch that I thought it would. I know this is a deck that is very controversial. A lot of people like get rid of it. It is a little bit more difficult to read with. But a common thing that I hear said about this deck is that it is absolutely uncanny and creepy. And I definitely agree with that. I labeled this as my springtime shadow work deck because I think that on the surface we have like these beautiful pastels. And so you think that you're gonna get something sweet, but at the same time it's like with this girl is eating this cake, but she has this giant knife just pointed right up at her, and it almost looks like right here with like the frosting that it's blood. And so it's just absolutely deliciously creepy and weird. And you know, look at this girl like on this Wheel of Fortune, they actually have like an arrow right through there. So it is it's a little freaky. And I think this is where I'm at. I've recently been really kind of like surrounding myself with a lot of like Scorpio themes. I've been kind of sitting in that energy. My best friend's a double Scorpio, so it makes a lot of sense. And thinking about big things like death and rebirth and mystery and what is beyond, the taboo subjects. And so this deck has been sitting in my mind a lot lately. So this is a current favorite deck. All right, another favorite deck right now that I want to share is my Into the Lonely Woods Oracle. I am of the belief that decks come into your life for a reason, and I think that this deck came in at the perfect time. When I purchased it, I did not know why I bought it. And then instantly the next day I said, oh, I know exactly why I bought this. So as you know, I'm going through some big monumental internal shifts. I say that in almost every single video, but I'm very open to evolving and to change right now. And this deck is helping me say goodbye to parts of myself that I would like to just leave at peace. So not bury, but like make peace with, and just feel comforted and supported through that grieving process of letting those parts go. And recognizing sometimes that like, yeah, we might have lost things, but we also realize that there are other opportunities for us out there. We just have to find our night selves, right? We just have to find like who we are when we let go of some of those surface level personas. I also have been using this deck quite a bit because I teach seniors. And so my kids have 24 days left until the end of school. Those are school days. And I'm very fortunate to work on the graduation committee, but that also means that I, very early in the school year, have been writing the prompts for the valedictorian speeches and thinking about who is going to speak at graduation and how we're going to get, you know, all of these people sitting in the gym. So every day my mind is already thinking about the end when I still have these beautiful kids that are in front of me. And so I think that is one of the most beautiful things about teaching, is that you always get to go through so many cycles. But this deck is helping me, especially right now, as I and remembering, okay, yeah, it does hurt, but I do need to remember to water my own garden. And sit with myself. So into the Lonely Woods, those are my two heavier decks. You can see probably why I've been a little quiet on the YouTube end, because if those are the decks that I've been really thinking about, that's where my mind has been. All right, next I have a couple of other fun decks. This is actually my favorite pairing right now, but I think I'm going to rightfully consider both of these decks to be current favorites. This is the Southern Gothic. And here I have Louisiana Cajun Creole Tarot by Cajun Conjurer, aka Jared Bro, a real life friend of mine. Jared is funding this deck right now for pre-order, so if you're interested, I'll leave a link down below. Okay, so as far as it goes with this, I have always kind of felt a little reluctant to dive in with the Southern Gothic because the area that I'm living in, Louisiana, which is Acadiana, which is depicted here in this tarot, is a little bit different from like traditional Southern culture. But I grew up somewhere that is more Southern than it is Cajun or Creole. And so when I mix these two decks together, I actually get a really happy blend of my own cultural identity. So for example, kudzu doesn't really grow in Louisiana, but it did grow in Alabama where I lived. Hurricanes, of course, I'm very innately familiar with. And so this encompasses two forces of like extreme willpower, and I think that it's a really beautiful thing that I'm able to see some of these more generic Southern images paired next to this beautiful crawfish boil, which is very, very true to Acadiana's culture. So as far as it goes with the Louisiana Cajun Creole Tarot, because I know that it hasn't been shown much yet on YouTube, the accordions are the cups, the triangles are the swords. Look how beautiful this is. The fiddles are the wands, and then the washboards are the pentacles. And I love this so much. This always reminds me so much of a place that's right near my work. He's renamed all of the court suits to also match like archetypal figures in Louisiana. And he's also mixed some of these older storylines of the Acadians that first settled here and the Creoles that first settled here with some newer images. This card right here is named after a song. Basically, the guy got caught like sneaking out by his parents, and they're making him like face the consequences of like staying out all night and partying. So there's nods to songs as well in here. It's more than just like the language or like the types of instruments that are depicted in the sword suits. We have true archetypal figures. So these have to be a favorite of mine right now. This is home in a nutshell for me. And as I'm entering in my life where everything is like shifting and unstable, it's nice to see home reflected back in my tarot practice so that I can catch that breather. There we go. And Beau Soleil means the sun. So I will do a walkthrough of this deck, but I want to read the guidebook because it is massive. It's like 200 pages. And I want to hear my friend's thoughts on why he picked certain cards and just really kind of do a deep dive with it before I share my thoughts. But I'm thoroughly enjoying it. All right, next. Okay, so next we have the Crow Tarot. When I decided that I was going to film a response to this video, the Crow Tarot instantly is the one that came to mind for me. So I tried to put the crows away. After winter, I was like, you know what, crows, you're kind of mean. I really want to put you away because you're telling it like it is, and I don't know if I want to hear it. And the crows just kept coming back out. And so I've accepted at this point that the crows are my guide. Usually I take the butterflies, I take the moths, I take the beetles, I take any of the small insects. That's really usually where my attention is focused. I like to look at the flowers. I like to look at the things that are closer to the ground. And now as I'm entering in some of these larger realms of my life, I think that I need this deck to remind me to step back and see things from a greater perspective. This deck feels like the Queen of Swords to me. She is very supportive. I think I've said in other videos before that it's King of Swords. I did not know this deck as intimately as I do now. And I will say that this is a deck that is steeped with wisdom. She's the Queen of Swords, and she sees your pain and she sees your suffering, but she wants to remind you that you have autonomy. This is a deck that definitely reminds me of my personal power. So even though I didn't include this the last time I made a top 10 favorite tarot decks list, I think that was over in the summer I made it, I definitely think that there are about 2 decks that I could probably switch out for this one. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I think this would probably jump up if I was thinking of like my overall favorite rankings of all time and not just my current favorites. I think that this deck would place extremely highly on that list. She's stunning. The plants are really fulfilling for me in this deck because if we think about it, like we have the sunflowers here for the 6 of Cups, and I think to myself of the child that just has like their face towards the sun all the time, that the kind of naive nature of I just want to meet everything where it's at, like full face, before you've gone through some of the sorrows in life. So the Crow Tarot, oof, it's my only MJ deck. And I think I want to keep it that way. I'm not the biggest fan of collage decks overall, so I'm surprised that the Crow and I get along so well, but she's here to talk to me through this process, I think. All right, next we have some color because it is indeed the season of spring. So this is Tarot Landscapes. I have edged my copy. And honest to God, like this kind of looks like the back to Light Sears, right? Which I don't own. But as soon as I edged this copy in purple, I was like, I love this color combination so much that I almost kind of want to get Light Sears just so I can edge it. Am I right in thinking that the backs look like that? I think I've watched a lot of tarot too. If I know what the backs of a deck I don't own are. So here we go. I'm sure that's a relatable experience. So I am loving this deck right now because the trees are at their brightest potential. The live oaks have shot out these gorgeous little yellow leaves, and everything, like the foliage is so new right now and so bright right now and so stunning right now. And it's great to see these bright, vibrant colors, especially like these neon kind of greens after such a long winter. It was a heavy winter. We got 10 inches of snow in South Louisiana. It was crazy. And so I'm very much enjoying the richness of this deck, but at the same time, there's not a lot going on in each image. There's only one solitary creature per the image, and sometimes you really have to look very hard to find that solitary creature. So we're here and we're opening our eyes to spring, but we're not fully outside yet. We're not partying. We're not the 3 of Cups yet. We're here and we're embracing this richness, like this new, fresh richness, but we're not, it's still very innocent and it's still ours. We're still holding that richness to our chest. So that's Tarot Landscapes. And it has the worst bow ever. I will say it has the worst bow ever. But ever since I edged this, I'm not noticing how terrible the bow is. Because she's a funky bow. But I did want to mention that because the cardstock, woof. But I don't care. She's making me feel very young and rich and vibrant. All right, next one. I know Tarot 2 probably got sick of seeing this deck. But here we are. This is my current 11 favorites. And I have to show the Gentle Tarot. I'm going to actually set this one down. Okay, there we go. So once again, this follows right after Tarot Landscapes. The colors are so rich and so bright. There is some wildlife, but we're not oversaturated with the jungle that is South Louisiana. The weeds haven't gotten, 10 feet high. And I say the weeds with love because weeds are just plants. But I actually really enjoy the weeds, so I don't even know why I said it like that. But either way, the plants are not 10 feet high and bushy right now. So there is a sense of pared backness to it. But like I said, like it's like seeing the world with fresh open eyes. I just recently backed Mari's, like my friend Fire. I say recently, it was a few months ago. And I have to say that Mari, the creator of this deck, is the absolute best at giving updates. I think that like getting a Kickstarter deck from her is one of the best campaigns I've ever seen. And so I think that is also helping me to really bond with this deck, because I know that Mari is such a beautiful human being. And I know that she pours her whole heart into all of the work that she does. And so it's like, this is a deck that I meet with open-heartedness. Recently, I've been trying to think of ways to really kind of slow down my mornings. I really got into a habit where I was getting to some pretty heavy dopamine loops. And so what I think I want to do is set up a small table upstairs where I can read with only this deck. Because all my other decks are downstairs. I only want to read with this deck. Because oftentimes I think to myself, you know, I know the guidebook should have been shown here, but let's say, for example, I pull this beautiful Chariot, and then I have this affirmation to guide my day. I step into confident action with ease. Triumph is in my blood. I am confident action and trusting ease. I think much of this is a deck that can change your life. I think that if we lead with affirmations like that and we trust wholeheartedly in ourselves, the way that Mari seems to trust in us, like I do really feel that this is a creator that has put herself into it, then we can make some powerful changes in the world. This is definitely a current favorite right now. All right, on a similar vein, but slightly different, I also have been using Naturescapes. I did edge this one in a bit of a teal color. And I think it's going to be for the same reason, y'all. So maybe it's not necessarily a bad idea to have overlap in your collection, because when you're like me and you sit down, you're like, oh, damn, I'm pulling for like the same kind of decks. Maybe that is a signal to you that, hey, this is a reflective of the themes of my life right now. I want to be in nature, but I definitely want it to be seen from an open-eyed perspective. Kind of similar to the Crow, this is a deck that helps me regain vision of my life. And what a beautiful message for like the Two of Wands energy of spring. This is the deck that I fought with, and I finally decided that even though the cardstock is terrible, I'm going to ignore that. I've made my peace with it. Because look at that death card. This looks like my parents' house. The way that this like light shines through, the way these bushes are flowering here. I think many of us can relate to this image looking like someone's front yard. And that makes it even more personal, is that it looks like it's someone's front yard and it's a death card. This deck is perfect. All right. And here I have a little silly one, but I love it. I've also edged this one. I really like how this edging came out, actually. This is the Field Guide to Garden Dragons. The Field Guide to Garden Dragons. The Garden Dragons Oracle. I don't know, y'all. I keep my decks in bags. I'll leave a link in the description box below. They're the Garden Dragons. But I have to tell you a really funny story about this one, actually. This really should be in like my decks that made me believe part 2, but I have to share it now because I'm seeing this card and remembering. So the other day, a student came to me and he was like, hey, I'm going through some really big monumental shifts. And I was like, oh yeah, really? And he's like, yeah, I just found out my girlfriend is pregnant. And I had pulled only this card that day. Only this card. It was only this card. And it is probably one of the only cards that I have in my collection that literally says child on it. And I was just absolutely flabbergasted, because the question I had asked that morning was like, what new revelation will come for today? What new insight will I have today? It was like based off of like the Ace of Swords. And then I pulled childlike and I was like, oh, what does that mean? And sure enough, there was this. Now, I did touch base with a student later on, and he was like, my girlfriend got her period. And I was like, okay, great, because like that would be crazy. He's 17, you know, and he's a couple months from graduating. So I'm glad everything worked out. But I absolutely had to share that story with you, because like, y'all, tarot, oracle, like this shit is fucking magic. It is just unfucking believable magic. So I think that's one of the reasons that like I am just absolutely obsessed with this deck right now. I am having the greatest time with it. This is a fucking accurate reader. It is so accurate. These keywords, we have things like relax, we have luck, energy, resilience, fun. Some of these, like resilience, like, y'all, do we really need another oracle deck with the word resilience? Probably not. But when you pair it with a turnip, it's like, you know what? People that ate turnips and that eat turnips, I do kind of think of them as resilient. Why not? And it's so much fun. This is one of the decks that if I had a vegetable garden, I would use this deck to pull cards and be like, all right, I'm planting watermelon this year. It's so much fun, y'all. And the guidebook is written as if we are like seeing these dragons out for the wild. And so we get to learn about their habitat and their eating behaviors and if they're shy or not. And this is just a fun deck. If you have like a younger person in your life that would be really interested in Oracle, I wholeheartedly recommend this deck to you. So yeah, anyway, I just had to tell you my crazy story because, you know, I've learned very quickly to trust in the garden dragons or whatever the hell they're called. These guys are super accurate. Alrighty, next. All right, guys, next is going to be my Lucille Clifton. I love this deck. Something hopeful rises in me, rises and runs me out onto the road. Worlds buzz over us like bees. Listen, you will wonder. Words tumbling together up the long stairs, home. This always reminds me of like going out to eat with a loved one and then like climbing up the stair, like a little bit like buzzed and laughing and just having a good time. I'm gonna let the words speak for themselves here. A change changer, I continue to continue. And the gulf enters the sea and so forth, none of them emptying anything. It's a deck that teaches me more about life than any other deck that I have. Let me not forget to work hard, trust in the gods. I just love it. You know how dangerous it is to wear dark skin. Lucille Clifton, a lot of her poetry does touch on the experience of being a Black woman in the United States. And so there is a potency here that is just gorgeously and gloriously raw. She's definitely someone that knows how to speak with her entire being. All I need from this is one card, and I can absolutely make it through the whole week. If there was a deck where I could only pull one card for the whole week, no other deck at all, this would be the deck that I chose. Because these images stick with me. These ideas stick with me. These verses, I hold them in my deepest of hearts. Each day something that loves us, rounder than the moon and far more faithful. Just beautiful. It's stunning. This is a deck that reminds me to be fully and absolutely present. All right, and then I have my last one. Now, this one is Le Tarot de Femme Erotiques. So if you are sensitive to nudity, this is not, you might want to pause the video now. So I just want to give a disclaimer, YouTube, I am not showing porn, I'm showing tarot. Please, please, please do not unlist this video. Okay, great, thank you. This is one of my absolute favorite decks right now. I think that there is so much beauty to embracing the sensuality. And like I had mentioned before about Lucille Clifton's poetry reminding me to be like fully present, this is also a deck that reminds me to be. I feel like this is a deck that just shines with kind of the star imagery. You know, in the moment of the star, we have hit rock bottom and we've climbed our way out, and we're feeling the vibrational forces of the world around us, and we finally have direction, and we finally have hope, and we finally have healing. And I do find that this is a deck that kind of shines with that star power, because all of these women are sitting there in their vulnerability. And I love this too, the Magician. This is one of my favorite cards. All of this is vintage erotica, that, like vintage erotica, like I can't talk, photography, and that it was made into a tarot deck. So you just have to wonder, like, did these women like know each other? What are the circumstances between like all of these different stories? Was this like a traveling photographer? You know, how did all of these images come to be? I just find it so interesting. Like I said, it reminds me of the starness of like that new hope of vulnerability. Like, here I am, and I have been reborn, and this is me in my new skin. But also it intrigues my brain. Like I said, like, how did this come to be? Like, how did this become a tarot deck? Like, it is so exciting to me to see creators coming up with just these ingenious ideas and really respecting the beauty that is the female form. I really love this deck. It is one of my current favorites, but I think in just general, like, it's one that I just love to use it every time I use it. Alrighty guys, so that was my top 11 favorite decks of right now, as of current. If you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you go ahead and give it a like. I appreciate so much y'all being here, and if y'all have any of these decks, I would like to know, because I just find it to be a beautiful part of this community when we get to gush over our favorite decks. I think that there's something so special about saying, hey, this thing like really resonates with me, it resonates with you, and just like exploring the different reasons why we love what we love.